I'm Ruth from Alexander Associates. I'm delighted to have Sharon from Ashron Consulting with me today. Sharon has agreed to take part in an interview promoting women in engineering. Thank you very much for agreeing to take part.
You're welcome,
and
Ruth.
travelling down to see us. Just wanted to start off talking a little bit about your early career. So you didn't do the A-levels, university, you did an apprenticeship, electrical apprenticeship?
No, actually. So I did do A-levels.
Okay.
Yeah, so
right.
I actually do have maths, physics and chemistry A-levels.
Wow.
Which is sort of why I am in engineering.
Right.
But when I was 18, that's when I became a trainee engineer.
Right,
And that was at Fox's Biscuits.
On the controls side.
So literally, Fox's Biscuits, a factory.
Yeah.
So not the Batley one that in Yorkshire, but they had a sister company in Kirkham. So I grew up in Lancashire. So very engineering company.
Yeah.
County with BAE Systems, Springfield's BNFL.
Yes. Yep.
And Fox's Biscuits had an advert really for a trainee engineer.
Yep.
So it wasn't just electrical; it was actually mechanical.
Right.
Electrical and wrapping fitting. So that's
where you started.
Yeah.
And what was the reason that because you could have done lots of things with those A-levels, but you decided to go into engineering. Why? What was the spark? Where did it come from?
Well, engineering wasn't necessarily where I thought it was going.
Okay.
I'll be very honest with you, because I was very strong at art and history.
Okay.
But probably growing up in a town that was very engineering disciplined, I don't know why I didn't think they would be a career path, really. But and so I was good at maths.
Yeah.
Liked chemistry, thought physics would go with them.
Yeah.
And so that's why I ended up doing really maths, physics and chemistry A-levels.
Right.
And I did think about going to university, which is, like you say, is sometimes
the
a
standard route. Yep.
But I don't know why I never explored it more myself, but it was things like my parents were saying, oh, well, it'd be very expensive to go to university.
Yes.
So when I finished my A-levels,
Yep.
that's really when, rather than looking for a university route, that's really when I decided to look for a job.
Yeah.
Not a career, a job.
Yeah, okay. I want to earn some money. What job shall I do? And so you took the trainee role. So is that different from an apprenticeship, a trainee engineer?
Fundamentally, it's very like an apprenticeship. It's almost identical. I went through the exact same path that an apprentice would do, but except I was 18 and not 16.
Yep.
Which today would be the role.
Yeah.
I basically it was a full year away at college.
Right.
Doing in the engineering workshops, doing the filing on the lathes, doing the welding.
Wow.
Doing the turn, anything, and all engineering based.
Yeah.
Night school as well, and not only that, I had to go into the factory on a Saturday as well, because it was a biscuit factory. That's when they did all the maintenance work.
Right.
So literally, I did EITB apprenticeship, full indentured, all the skill sets. Had the EITB come in and assess me, kept all my logbooks. So it was proper apprenticeship.
Yes.
It wasn't, anything other than an apprenticeship.
They definitely got their money's worth, obviously, if you were working 6 days a week. And did they take on more than one trainee engineer at a time?
They did. They took on 2.
And I'm guessing the other one was probably a man and not a woman.
Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah. So one man, one girl.
And the company you were working in, was it very male dominated, or were there other women working in the business in the engineering side?
So the engineering side was very traditional, but the factory itself had lots of women there.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the whole scene of making biscuits involved all disciplines, all people, all walks of life.
Yeah.
But the engineering side itself was very traditional. We even had a chief engineer.
Right.
Who had a secretary.
Right.
Yeah, there were typewriters there. And then we had electrician leads, they called them heavy mechanical and wrapping fitters. So that was very male dominant. And I just remembered they even had a maintenance section, a painter and a carpenter.
Right.
So you couldn't get more traditional to a maintenance department in the late 80s than
Amazing.
that. Yes.
And did you work kind of all different areas?
Yes.
So you got to experience everything within the engineering side?
Within the engineering side, yeah. So I would be on rotation.
Yep.
So when I wasn't at college, I would be on rotation with either the fitters, as they're called,
yep.
the electricians, or the wrapping fitters.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I would be with one of those on my general duties.
Yeah.
So when I came in at the weekend, when I was at college, I'd be appointed to one of those, do exactly the same work that they would be do. And yeah, so yeah, all elements of it really.
Was there one bit that you thought, because you said it was a job rather than a career choice at the time, when did it switch from being, oh, okay, so this is quite interesting, this suits this skills that I've got, okay, this can be my career, or did it just kind of, no, it just, I took the next job and the next job and it went from there?
I think I have to say I never saw it really as a career path, and I probably still don't see it as a career path. But I see it as a job that I really love. It's a vocation.
Yes.
You know, it's a vocation. I found something that I like doing.
And you're very good at.
Thank you very much. I found something I like doing. There's so many things you have to do, problem solve. You know, no day's the same.
Yeah.
Particularly when you're working on a project. You know, there's 2 days are not the same really. It's a different thing you might be building. It's different people you might be building it with. So yeah, I love doing it. Yeah. Which is why I still do it really.
Yeah.
So it's the job I love really.
Yes. And so you were at Fox's Biscuits for how long?
So 3 years.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And then you kind of got all the knowledge you needed and you moved on to, where did you go next?
So I went to a company called Automation,
right,
which is a bit of a tongue twister.
Yeah.
And they did work for North West Water.
Okay.
And that's really my first introduction to the water industry.
Yeah.
So they were quite at the heart of Birchwood, which is in Warrington. And so North West Water, as they were the United Utilities, they had their head office there, and Automation, which is still tongue twister, was basically on their doorstep.
Yeah.
So they did a lot of work for them, yeah.
And was there a, oh, I love the water industry moment? Was that what it was? Is that why your career kind of stayed in that sector?
It stayed dominantly in the water industry.
Yeah.
There's probably a few jobs I did for them that were outside of it. Basically chemicals, elements of it. But all of their work was pretty much with the water industry, to the extent where, I mean, as a young trainee, I was actually on the team and we built a brand new water treatment works.
Wow.
I mean, their discipline was electrical, so I did come from the engineering background of Fox's Biscuits to more core discipline of electrical.
Yep.
And in there they did the whole turnkey, the MCC designs, the electrical designs, the PLC software. Everything. So again, in a hub where I had lots of people I could learn off. Yeah. And be like a sponge really.
And was it still very male dominated, or were there more women working in engineering at that company?
So let's see, this was 91. There was an amazing chap, had a big desk opposite mine. He had an ashtray on his desk. His name was Reg, and he loved to smoke his cigars. So this was like the environment we were in. Yes. It was, and there was a typing pool. Yeah. You know, so again, it's almost like the 1950s. But no, it's still very traditional. Yeah. There were women there actually in engineering and CAD. Right. Not engineering as I was doing engineering.
So you weren't on the kind of tools as such now, you were more on the design side?
Correct, or
okay. Yeah. And was that real technical side on the design, was that interesting? Was that challenging? Was that kind of another challenge?
Yeah, again, basically having we were building the entire scheme. So I was working with all the engineers, some fantastic engineers. Yeah. And we were using databases then, which wasn't really heard of. And in actual fact, the software that we use day in, day out now for sizing cables. Yeah. Our project was the first ever that we used that for North West Water. Okay. So I was, what would I be, about 21, 22 there, had this big desktop on my desk, computer. And we agreed with the client to use this software on the proviso that we actually did a percentage of all the calculations by hand. Right. That was my job. Okay. you know, I had other engineers that could support me on that.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing was we were finding errors in the software, and we were going back to the software manufacturer. Well, I was finding the errors in the software.
Saying your software's made this
Yeah,
mistake.
are you
You
using
need to fix it. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I was almost on the phone with them to
Yeah.
like fix it. But yeah, so, I mean, I had a whole project where I had
And
to
that
do a
software's
spec-
still being used
It's
now.
Amtech. It's Amtech software.
Oh, is it?
So
Right, okay.
in the 90s, it was a DOS-based system.
Right.
So now it's all
Yeah.
fancy.
Are you still, you're still not finding mistakes with the...
Luckily, I don't have to use that software anymore.
No.
I can delegate.
And so I obviously have worked with you as a project manager. So when did the switch from being very technically led more into project management happen, and why did that happen? Kind of, what was there a light bulb moment, or actually this is what I want to do, or did it just kind of your career progressed in that direction and oh, here we are, we're doing project management now?
I think very much that. It was more a natural progression.
Yeah.
More people giving me more responsibility, and I'm happy to take it.
Yes.
And I think also when you do take more project management roles, you get more of a say on how things turn out.
Yep.
So I'm very interested in the end product.
Yep.
You know, what I'm building. So I tended to find that if I did take on that responsibility, it gave me more influence on the output.
Yes.
Whereas if I was just on a technical role, not that saved somebody else, but it was more difficult to influence the outcome.
Yeah.
Whereas if you take on that responsibility in those roles, you get a lot more say in how the outcome turns out. So it was mainly that, really.
Yeah. And do you think, being a woman, were there times when you actually know that you were being treated differently because of your gender? Was there any kind of real barriers that were related to, well, I'm a woman and I'm a project manager, and why aren't you listening to me? Why isn't this happening? And it was because you were a woman, or was it just the whole project management was difficult?
If I was to say I hadn't come across somebody who found it difficult because I was a woman, I'd probably be just denying, lying to myself.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, I've worked over 30 years in the construction industry, water industry, and there are a handful, me personally. So I'll put it down to I've been very fortunate, or it's my personality. I don't give a monkeys.
Yeah.
Or I'm just quite strong-willed, and you have that opinion, I have this opinion.
Yeah.
Let battle commence.
Yeah.
As it were.
Yes.
Or not that there were battle, but yeah, I'm not afraid of the job.
Yep.
I'm not afraid of what it is we have to do. I might be afraid of other things.
Yeah.
But as when it comes to the engineering, I just know.
You know your stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what I'm doing, and so you really need to listen to me because what I'm saying is correct. And that mindset gets you to the end goal, which is the delivery of the project.
Yeah. And not to say I haven't found it difficult, where I've had to be patient.
Yeah.
For people maybe to catch up with how I see things.
Yeah.
But that couldn't say that was down to my gender. That might be down to how I perceive things differently, or I might have been a little bit on a different curve to they were.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there's been people, but they were hard work to everybody, not just me.
Yeah. So thinking about the construction projects that you've worked on, and there have been some huge construction projects that you've been involved with. From when you started your career, when you think about where you've been in the last, let's say, 10 years, have you seen the number of women working in construction increase? Or is it just because I see it's been quite static? I haven't seen a huge more amount of women being interested in engineering. Or one of the problems is, especially if people go off and have children, they don't tend to come back into engineering. Have you seen it get better? Or actually, we're the same as we were kind of 20, 25 years ago?
I think in the UK, if I was going to take a view, I think in the UK, we're not expanding it as much. When I've worked on projects which have been not international, but have had international parties involved.
Yes.
Then, for instance, when I was working in London on, the Lee Tunnel.
Yes.
That had a huge amount of women involved in it.
Right, okay.
From all ranges. But the parent companies that were involved in that joint venture were French and Spanish.
Yes.
And they didn't see any difference.
No.
You know, women were just very, the way I perceived it is women just take on roles there and they were seen as equals.
Yeah.
So maybe from my own personal experience, I think probably on a British level, a UK level,
Yeah.
that you don't tend to see a lot. So certainly when I was working on that project, I mean, I remember a time when we were actually had a meeting and there were 7 people in that meeting. It was a meeting I was chairing, and five were women,
Yeah.
and 2 were men.
Wow.
So it was a proper role
That's incredible,
reverse.
because that is unheard of.
And there were women, you know, of a senior role, one in charge of the piling, one in charge of
Brilliant.
so very heavy construction.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's probably the one experience when I was
Yeah.
working on that project, where there were lots of women
Which
there.
was an incredible project
Yes,
to
it
be
was.
involved with.
Fantastic,
Yeah, it was
it
an
was.
amazing project.
Yes.
And so why is that? Why are we so bad at promoting engineering in schools? Because we are useless at it. And one of the things that I've spoken about before is that I had no idea engineering existed when I was at school. I was told I should have been a teacher because I was really good at English. So go and be a teacher. I would never have been a teacher. And then I ended up working in recruitment. And the world of engineering was opened up to me, and I suddenly thought, wow, I would have loved to have known that this career was even available and even out there. And I think it's changed a little bit, but I still don't think there is enough that is talked about in schools, or just engineering is talked about as a subject enough for people to go, oh, I could do that as a career. That could be a job for me. I just wondered why we're so bad at it.
I think maybe we see routes into engineering is through A levels. A levels and degrees.
And degree, yeah.
And I don't think that's the right route, personally, because I think by the time you've gone through your A levels, by the time you've gone through a degree, by the time then you're looking for work, maybe you might fall out of love with it if you've not really got to the elements of engineering, which are the fun bits, the doing.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to think that the change in philosophy that we're experiencing now, where apprenticeships are becoming the norm, because I think we had a period where everybody must go to university.
Yeah.
I think now it's like, and university is not for everybody.
No.
I mean, I do have a degree now, I have a master's. You know, I've done that off my own back.
Yeah.
But when I went into my apprenticeship, I was like, oh my God, I'm getting paid to learn.
Yeah.
I'm getting paid to learn. Somebody's paying me to go to school.
Yeah.
And that really made me think about what I was doing when I was at school.
Yeah.
So if I turned up to college, and didn't put full effort in to my classes, really I was letting my employer down.
Yeah.
So very much a sense of duty that somebody was paying me to actually learn. And I still hold that true now. That's why I like working what I do. So if I want to learn something, I've worked hard, I'm going to pay myself to learn it. So I think the apprenticeship route could be a fantastic avenue for young girls, young women to get into engineering, because you can actually get closer to what it is that you'd be doing when you come out of university anyway.
Yeah, and I think there is this perception that, I know I was told to be a teacher because I wasn't very good at maths. Bless her, she's not very good at maths. So there's so many things you can't do because you can't do maths very well. But I think a lot of people, if you're told at school you can't do maths, then you just believe, well, obviously I can't do maths then. So you don't achieve in that subject, which then apparently means you can't do this and this career. Hopefully the apprenticeship route, more people looking at it, more companies offering it. I think that's the other thing. Everybody has graduate training programs, but actually now they are taking on more and more apprenticeships. So maybe that will change things for the future.
Hopefully it will.
Yeah.
Because you're learning from the ground floor upwards, from the tools. Then you learn the theory, and I think you can fall in love with what it is you're building rather than actually worry about the theory behind it.
Yeah.
Then you learn the theory.
Have you got some talk about the Lee Tunnel project. Was that the real high so far in your career, or has there been another project that for different reasons has been, though that was the one? There was the Southeast Water project that you worked on that had its own set of challenges. So has there been any one project that you've thought, this is the career high?
Good question. I've had 3 pinnacle projects, I think. So lead tunnel, working on the lead tunnel was great.
Yeah.
I mean, that was really heavy engineering.
Yes.
Cranes below ground,
Yeah.
you know, building tunnels below London.
Yeah.
That was just amazing. And
Incredible
everything
project.
that you touched was like the size of this room, or, you know,
Yeah.
or bigger. So that was great. And working with the quality of people there was fantastic.
Yeah.
Kelleher, you know,
Yeah.
it was interesting job for its own challenges. You know, I went in there quite late into that project and had to turn it around. So that was a challenge. But I think probably one of the first jobs that you got for me, which was great billing.
Yes. Yeah, with Imtech,
you know, with
wasn't it?
Imtech,
Yeah.
and that was in a joint venture with Galliford Try.
Anglian Water. Yes,
Yeah,
it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
And that was using new technology.
Yes.
So you know, I was in charge of a brownfield site, so it was one of probably the few projects where I've been able to start on the ground.
Yeah.
We had a blank piece of paper, but the client knew what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
They had, you know, £30 million to do it, and you know, we built that project, and I get excited about, you know, 3 engines running, producing green electricity and everything. So
yeah. So some real career highs, some real projects to be involved in.
yeah.
And then one of the things that we often talk about is the importance of a mentor or someone to inspire to. And again, that's another area that is very difficult for women in engineering, because there sometimes isn't somebody that you can look at and go, wow, look what they've achieved. I want to get there. So we've been talking about the role that men play in championing women in engineering. And you've worked with Matt Sutton on a number of occasions, and I know how much he champions you in the work that you do. How important do you think that role model is, or did you have someone that you looked to and thought, okay, I can do that?
Well, certainly I can do that. You certainly have got a few experiences, but I think going back to when I actually started in engineering, I mean, the reason I probably got into engineering is the gentleman who interviewed me at the biscuit factory, Pat Quinn was his name, you know, and he was a real champion for me to be in that factory, in that role, you know, because that would have been a first in 1988 or 89.
Yeah.
You know, I was the first female engineer that they'd had.
Amazing.
You know, and the words still echo in my ears that he told me. I remember him saying to me, I don't expect you to know everything, but I expect you to know where to find it. And even to this day, those words echo, because I'm going, okay, I don't know that, but who knows? So he's really had an influence on me. And he was a champion, because otherwise, you know, I wouldn't have even been here now talking about it. I might have been, you know, and the other career that I could have gone down was labs, you know, because I had a job offer there.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was down to Pat and the trip that he took me around the biscuit factory was where I was like, wow, this is amazing. We're making something.
And he was probably enthusiastic about what he was doing. And that just is, you know, inspires you to someone's enthusiastic.
You know, and he had a daughter, and he wanted his daughter to aspire to be something too. And, you know. Brilliant. So it was good. You know, and Matt has been a big champion of me, you know.
Yeah.
He's put me in some difficult jobs to sort out for him.
Yes.
So that's, you know, thank you, Matt.
Yes.
But yeah, you do that all through your career. I mean, I can remember one particular story. I mean, I was in electrical contracting. I was working on a pumping shaft where we were doing it was building services. And I had like 40 electricians working for me. And I'm trying to get decisions out of these 2 gentlemen working for the construction company. And, you know, I've had a difficult day, and they couldn't make a decision. And I just remember going home going, I can do that job.
Yeah.
And I applied. And that's how, again, I got into construction from that, really. Just not that they were, you know, doing anything wrong, but I just thought, I can do that.
There is no reason I can't do that job.
So, I see something, I think, oh, I could do that.
Yeah. And if you could travel back in time and sit down and have a conversation with yourself at 20 years or something, what advice would you give yourself?
Oh my God, it might be a long conversation. But I think the message, probably a couple of things is, probably the messages you tell yourself are the most important. Yeah. You know, because if you believe in something, then you should keep working at it. Yeah. And also, I think when you come across people that don't always agree with you, it's not because of who you are. Sometimes it's that they're afraid. Yeah. But you know, it's taken me a long time to know who I am.
Yes. Yeah.
And that comes with time.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you know, people are sometimes insecure,
Yeah.
and it's not about you. So you know, you keep telling yourself the messages.
Yeah.
And only you can make yourself feel the way you do. So if you're having a bad day, don't let anybody put that on you. You know,
Yeah.
you have a good day.
Yeah, absolutely.
So not necessarily a great message, but we've had lots of conversations, me and myself,
Yeah.
along the way.
Yeah.
So because I've had some tough challenges for sure.
And have there been occasions where you've just thought, enough now. I can't do this anymore. This is, you know, there are too many challenges.
I've had some very, very tough situations, but that's mainly because the situation's been tough.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll go and look in a mirror, you know, have a word with myself.
Yeah.
Talk to myself.
Yeah.
Take on the superhero pose.
Yeah.
Hands on hips.
Yeah.
Change your posture.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many things. You know, like yoga can like make you feel stronger.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's one of my traits, I think. I don't give up.
Yeah.
I'm like a little Jack Russell.
Determination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like little Jack Russell. You know, I think, you know, if somebody might quote, I might have said, if they think that's going to put me off, they've got another thing coming. I'm going back in.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
yeah, I've got quite determined. I don't like to let people down. So if I've made a promise, I like to be able to keep the promise and see it through.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one of my traits really. But yeah, been some tough situations.
Yeah.
And just keep going really,
keep
because
going.
I'm of the philosophy: the sooner you get it done,
Yeah.
the sooner it's done.
Yeah.
And behind you.
I wonder how much you're treated differently because you're contract than permanent.
I think very few people actually know.
Right.
So
Okay, fine.
because when I go into if you like a company to work, I'm there to help the people that's take me on board.
Yeah.
So whilst being contract allows me to not ride above what the staff have to do, it means I don't have to worry about that necessarily.
Yeah.
And there have been people that have been really shocked to find out that I am contract.
Right.
Because they genuinely thought I was staff. And that's rightly or wrongly, I go in to be part of, to not you know, divide and divide people, but to bring them together. So if I act differently, you know, it's like, oh God, I'm contractor, you know, but then, you know, why should they respect me?
Yeah.
So yeah.
There's a lot of talk, thank goodness, now about companies recognising how diversity is so important, and we need people from different backgrounds, different religions, different everything to have a, you know, women in engineering, different communities, so that we have better projects, more diverse projects. Yeah. Is there, with the companies you've worked with over the years, are there somewhere you think, wow, that is, what a brilliant idea. I wonder why more companies aren't doing that. Just things that other companies can learn from.
I'm not sure about specifics, as in like while they're doing that. But there's been, certainly, I've worked with Mott MacDonald.
Yes.
And they come across as very, you know, inclusive on genders, from my experience anyway. But additionally, when I was on the Lee Tunnel, the Lee Tunnel, you know, the Vancy partnership there, they seem to have women in some very key roles.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yes, I mean, they did.
And they were they a French company? Is that one?
I think they were French, yeah.
Yeah.
Not sure who owns them ultimately, but yeah, Vancy, yeah.
Yeah, so I wonder what they do differently in France, maybe in education, to have people,
maybe
have
just
women
a perception.
more interested. Yeah, maybe.
I mean, the thing is, we all have these perceptions.
Yes.
Of who should do what roles.
Yes.
I mean, I think, like, I was this trainee apprentice, and I think it was not until about 5 years ago when I actually saw a female electrician on site. So even 25 years after I've done it, it's still not, you know, coming into the norm.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think you do tend to see it more in house building and you know, regular homes, but not in the construction industry. So I think maybe changing these mindsets that men do this, women do that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just job for the boys. It is trying for people to see that actually anybody can do this job. And I think social media, love it or hate it, and I'm not a massive fan of social media. I think that is helping, though. That's one of the positives about it. It's helping people be seen in the jobs that they're doing. So there are women electricians, there are women plumbers.
Yeah.
And look what you can do. Look, you can
Yeah.
do this job because there's someone else doing it. And you almost need those trailblazers. I think probably what you don't realise is that you were one and you are one. So people will be looking to you going, wow, she delivered the Lee Tunnel project. Maybe I could do
Not
that.
quite that, but I did a bit.
Yes, a section of the Lee
Yeah,
Tunnel
every little
project.
helps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I'm finding is the women that I'm talking to, in some way they've had to be a trailblazer. They've had to be in the first. So I don't think they realise actually you're the mentor. You're the people. People are looking at you now to say, wow, okay. I can achieve that. I can do that job like you did with the men around you.
Yeah.
I can do that job. They've now got women in those roles that they can look to.
I wonder if telling more of the stories, I mean, one of the stories that I didn't realise, Dame Shirley Stephanie, I just like picked up her book.
Right.
And I didn't realise that she ran a company of women working from home, and they developed the software that's in the black box that was on Concorde. See, like,
Wow.
why did we not know that
No,
story?
no.
And you just think, if more of those little snippets of
Yes.
stories came out, you go, wow, that's good, you know.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And there's hundreds of them.
Yes.
You know the women who did all the computers for NASA and
Yes.
all the computers here.
Yeah.
There's so, and Bletchley.
Yeah.
All of these stories we really need to get out there,
Yeah.
so that we're changing the mindset.
The perception.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always had this little motto: if it's meant to be, it's up to me.
Yep.
And I think if more of us actually say, you know what, I'm going to make a difference.
Yeah.
I'm not going to rely on a company to make a difference. I'm just going to go out there, I'm going to try, knock on a door, get turned down, knock on another door.
Yeah.
Eventually somebody's going to open the door. You know, I'm still here, which means there are enough doors to knock on, enough doors to
Yes.
open. So I just don't think we should rely on other people to do it for us.
Yeah.
That's my
And I guess
message.
you've bashed some of those doors down, so now they can stay open for the next person, which is nice.
I think that is a good message, actually, because we are actually, you know, representatives
Yeah.
when we're there. So we do need to perhaps think a little bit more so than perhaps other colleagues may do
Yep.
about the impressions that we're making.
Yeah.
Because these are impressions that we are making on people that are making decisions.
Yeah.
So we do have a little bit of responsibility.
Yep.
You know, so I had that responsibility when I was 18 in that factory.
Yes.
I was at college. I was the only female there, and actually I inspired ICI. I say that, but you know, the ICI managers were coming in to see their apprenticeships, and they saw me, and that inspired them to, you know, also take on some apprenticeships. So we are, you know, a responsibility of what we do and how we act.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come and see us and share your career history with us and what you've achieved in engineering. And I think the other thing that I'm finding is the more women that I'm talking to is they actually have no idea how amazing the career has been and how inspirational they are, and I think you're a classic example of that. So you've got that self-determination, which means you've succeeded, but it means that other people won't have to be the first person to hit the door down. So thank you so much for coming all this way and talking to us.
You're welcome, but I've got to say I need to thank you because some of these opportunities you've actually created for me as well, so let's never forget women and women.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It's absolutely been my pleasure. Thank you.